The Seattle Storm are sending Jewell Loyd to the Las Vegas Aces in a blockbuster three-team trade that moves Kelsey Plum to the LA Sparks. That's according to ESPN. As part of the deal, Seattle receives the second pick in this year's WNBA draft from LA in exchange for the Storm's number 9 pick, while the Aces also receive the 13th pick, a second-round selection from the Sparks.
Kelsey Plum is heading to Los Angeles, stepping away from A'ja Wilson's guidance in Vegas to start a new phase in her career.
Loyd is a 6-time All-Star and 2-time champ with Seattle, while Plum is a 3-time All-Star with 2 titles of her own out in Las Vegas.
Kelsey Plum's move to the LA Sparks in a 3-team trade has sent shockwaves through the WNBA. Could this signal the beginning of the Las Vegas Aces' decline? And who's responsible? Let's dive in and explore the situation.
With Loyd to Vegas, Plum to LA, just how does this maybe impact the landscape of the Western Conference? And I kind of want to also throw in the league as a whole, getting some of these big pieces now in new places.
Picture this. You're scrolling through your phone when, out of nowhere, bam, the headline breaks. Kelsey Plum, the sharpshooter, is leaving the Las Vegas Aces. But here's the twist. She's been traded to the LA Sparks in a huge 3-team deal that's got the whole WNBA buzzing.
Well, we have been hearing for a little while the reporting of Annie Costabile at the Chicago Sun-Times, as well as Roberta Rodriguez with Beta Basket. We've been hearing that Jewell Loyd, especially after the investigation with the Seattle Storm, was likely on the move. And then, of course, Kelsey Plum was cored by the Aces, though she was considered, and still is technically considered, one of the top draws in free agency as an unrestricted free agent.
Let's break this down. This trade isn't your average deal. Kelsey Plum heads to the Sparks, Jewell Loyd moves to the Aces, and the Sparks send their coveted number 2 draft pick to the Storm. It's like a high-stakes game of musical chairs, but with superstars at the heart of it. This trade is sending shockwaves through the entire league.
When you have 2 names like that, 2 Olympians, just won gold in Paris, they are going to, as you said, draw a lot of assets. And when you see a 3-team trade, obviously this was about as many teams as possible, but especially the Seattle Storm and the Las Vegas Aces being able to get value.
You're probably wondering why the Aces would let go of a player like Plum. That's the burning question on everyone's mind. Recall the rumors about tension between Plum and A'ja Wilson? Looks like there might have been some truth to those whispers after all.
Paige reminds me a lot of you. Like, you say it's not really about me. And she knows how her privilege has gotten her to that point. And also, like, she's good at basketball. But, like, she understands her privilege and, like, pushes her over the top, in a sense. It reminds me a lot of you. And I mean, that's a compliment.
Now, here's where things get even more intriguing. Plum isn't just making a quick switch. Reports suggest she's eyeing a long-term commitment with the Sparks, potentially extending beyond the 2025 season. This isn't just a team change, it's a major shift in the direction of her career.
I think what we have seen in the WNBA, especially with the last collective bargaining agreement that the league is still under, though negotiating right now, we've seen a lot more player autonomy and movement, and that makes things really exciting.
The Aces aren't just acquiring Jewell Loyd, they're adding another crucial piece to their championship puzzle. But the big question remains, will her playing style mesh with A'ja Wilson and the rest of the team's core? That's the burning question everyone's waiting to see answered.
I want to go back to the Aces just very briefly, because you talked about how they were trying to get that 3-peat, but instead now maybe seeking to compete for their 3rd championship in the last 4 years, and certainly looking to build that core around A'ja Wilson. But just what does Jewell Loyd kind of add to now what the Aces are trying to build here?
Some analysts are raising doubts about the Aces' move. While Plum and Loyd share similar skill sets, there are concerns about Loyd's recent shooting performance. Could this be a case of the Aces being too confident in their ability to plug any player into their system?
Jewell Loyd, again, has a very similar skill set in a lot of ways to Kelsey Plum. I think of players that can play that number 2 guard in particular, maybe have the ball in their hands a time or two. But with Jewell Loyd, her execution from the corner is lethal. And with Jewell Loyd, we saw that even at the Olympics, there was some controversy there with how she was utilized, or in fact, how she was not utilized by head coach Cheryl Reeve for Team USA. And then again, there were a few things going on with Seattle, and we saw a little bit of her productivity and specifically her efficiency dip.
Don't underestimate the Sparks. They're not just picking up a frustrated star, they're getting a motivated one. Plum is looking for a fresh start, and LA might be the perfect spot for her to reignite her career. Could this move be the spark the Sparks need to get back into playoff contention after a challenging season?
A lot of people thought they could be in contention to over and usurp the Houston Comets for that four-peat. Of course, that didn't come to pass. The New York Liberty are champions, let's not forget. But I think it's just a little bit of a different culture change. And I think with that, it means that Kelsey Plum, if she does go to LA, will be utilized for some of her experience and her leadership.
Now let's take a deeper look at the ripple effect of this trade. You thought it was just about Plum Lloyd and a draft pick. Think again. This move is shaking things up across the WNBA, and we're about to see some serious impact.
She will be paired alongside last year's number 2 overall pick, Cameron Brink, who was off to a fantastic rookie year before that season-ending injury. I mean, that's a 3-time All-Star. We talk about 2 titles, but just looking at her joining that, what kind of expertise, what kind of knowledge, what can that really do for, I don't want to use this, but what kind of spark can that be for the Sparks out there in LA? I had to use it.
Imagine this. The LA Sparks, who were at the bottom last season, have just catapulted into the spotlight. They've brought in Kelsey Plum, and she's no ordinary player. She's a sharpshooter, ready to rise to the occasion. And in LA, she's finally got the chance to take center stage.
I think you're right. With Cameron Brink coming back, hopefully very healthy from injury, as you mentioned, she was a dynamic force for that LA team. I think it's the overall organization and some of the things, again, that this is a legacy franchise. The Los Angeles Sparks played in the first ever WNBA basketball game. And again, we've seen other teams just build a little bit more infrastructure around their players.
The Sparks didn't just bring in a star. They gave up the number 2 draft pick, potentially passing on a generational talent like Olivia Miles or Paige Beckers. Instead, they're placing their bet on Plum's ability to make an immediate impact.
Heard a time or two the phrase hybrid rebuild come into play. They have a new coach. They are going to have now, as has been reported, a new player in Kelsey Plum. So I think the leadership from Plum, and I think maybe the reset for Kelsey Plum, being in a new environment, maybe taking on a different role, because she's coming from the Las Vegas Aces.
The Aces traded Plum for Lloyd, which might seem like a fair exchange, but Lloyd's shooting raises some concerns. She ended last season with just 36%, while Plum shot 43%. That's a noticeable gap.
She was on the Olympic team, of course, has been with the Aces for some years. She just had her jersey retired by her alma mater in Washington. So there's a lot of great things. And I do want to say, I was in Paris for the Summer Olympics, and we got to speak to Kelsey Plum. She had a few things off the court going on, and she talked about just leaning into her faith and being so blessed, and just kind of almost laughing at all of the things that were going on outside of basketball.
The Aces might have disrupted their chemistry. Plum wasn't just a scorer, she was a playmaker. With Lloyd, they gain a natural scorer, but who will step up to create those easy opportunities? Meanwhile, the Seattle Storm find themselves in a strong position with the number 2 pick. Paige Beckers could be a game changer for them.
Like the Las Vegas Aces, who they have a few moving pieces and moving parts. You can't always keep a championship team together. I wonder, I don't know for sure, but I wonder if also this is maybe just a really important, even personal reset for Kelsey Plum. And again, there have been reports that the same could be in play here for Jewell Lloyd.
Yeah, that puts things certainly in a different perspective, at least for her in her career.
We have to get better. We have to really take a sharp look at ourselves, look ourselves in the mirror, see our shortcomings, and then, you got to make the moves necessary, whatever that means, to put the best product that we possibly can. It's not going to be the same group probably next year. It just won't. And I'm sad about that, because I really like that group. They were a pain in my ass, but I was a pain in their ass too.
What is going on in their locker room? Like, this Aces team is falling apart. This is not a coach that I would want to play for.
There's something about the way she plays the game, her passing, her shooting, that people really identify with. I really feel like we're poised and we're set up for a great, successful next era of Fever basketball.
Is so bright, and our ultimate goal is to hang another banner in the field house. And our ultimate goal is to come back in here after we win that championship and celebrate again like we did in